Any of you here don't know me? Okay, thank you.
Get to it.
I'm Jake Roberts.
No, you're
I
not.
got crack Okay.
Did you need some money for your shoulder, Mr. Roberts?
I don't want to get started on that.
It's
I know you guys are going to bring it up though, so that's okay. Okay. Don't be shy, come on up. Were you in Oklahoma when Jake Roberts made that run through there with that girl and we set those, set the towns up and he pulled that shenanigans? Were you over there then?
Crawford's?
Huh?
Crawford's?
Working for Rick Garrett?
Yeah, Rick Garrett on Penn Street. I wasn't at that show, no.
Okay, well, it was a Jake Roberts story.
Let's hear it.
So, this was before Jake had a hit and run in Ohio and then had got pinched and got like 100 hours. So you guys are taping this. This is going to go on YouTube. Don't take that part, okay? Anyway, he ended up going to England. And he came back then after that, and we were in Oklahoma. Had this girl with him. Rick Garrett's promoter set some towns up. And Jake was going to go around and do promotion. He did. He went around and promoted and everything. We got over to the town, and the promoter said, "You never believe it. Jake came through here last couple of days ago and took all the advance money." Oh. I believed it. That's my Jake Roberts story. He's doing stand-up comedy now, a one-man show. I've got one going on myself. Our first real big one, our first one will be in March, middle of March in Effingham, Illinois, which is an hour and 20 minutes out of St. Louis. And it'll be similar to this, storytelling, Q&As, talking about things in the wrestling business. And I don't even know how long I've been doing wrestling. I started in 77. How many years is that? 39. 39? Yeah. If I make it through, well, May will be, 39. Yeah. So if I make it through one more, I said I would try to do 40 years. First I said 35. Actually, I said 5 years. I was teaching high school and coaching high school football when I started dabbling around in the wrestling business. And I quit that job. I resigned and went out on the road doing the wrestling business. And I said I would do that for 3-4 years. I actually said I'll do this 3-4 years, and if it doesn't happen, I'll go back and teach school. And then after 3-4 years, things picked up a little bit. You know, instead of making $10 a match, I was making $20 a match. So things had picked up a little. And then I said, I'll stay 5 more years. Then after that, it's 5 more. And I just kept going and going. And I haven't really stopped. I don't do a lot of stuff in the ring anymore because I'm just not motivated by getting kicked in the head by you young guys anymore, or getting kicked in the ribs, or kicked in my elbow and my arm goes the wrong direction. It hurts my golf game. But I graduated from the University of Memphis and got my degree in education, and always knew I had something to fall back on, which a lot of young wrestlers and a lot of young athletes, they don't really understand about going ahead and getting an education, or at least finding something that you can do if you happen to suddenly get out of the business. I know Daniel Bryan has done very well. Has he done well enough in his late 20s to have enough money to last him for the next 40 years? 40 years is a long time. So, okay, let's say he made $10 million. And he spends only a third of that, or a fourth of that per year. It's going pretty fast. It's what happens with football, basketball, baseball players. They don't realize how fast. You can make the money fast, but it's gone really fast. It only takes a couple of those $1 million homes, $200,000 or $300,000, $120,000 SUVs, a couple of $300,000 boats. Oh yeah, it happened to a lot of guys. A lot of guys that's living in Florida right now, that happened to them. I never went to Florida. Everyone said, move to Florida, Hogan. Hey brother, you gotta move down here, brother. Hey, brother. This works out, brother, yeah. Thank you very much. I think I'll go to Arizona. I see Valentine. In fact, I'm going to see Valentine tomorrow night in Chicago. I saw him last month in Milwaukee, and he said, I wish I'd have never moved to Florida. I wish I'd have went to Arizona with you. Why, Greg? 'Cause I'm broke. But everyone moved there to try to live and keep that lifestyle up and be like Hulk Hogan. Well, Hogan couldn't do that, but these other cats, they couldn't do it. Beefcake's been washed out now by Hulk, and they don't talk to each other. And Valentine and those guys, they don't run around with Hulk anymore. He's got a new wife, and Hulk's doing his thing, and he's not associated with any of us anymore. So to think that he was your savior and going to take you on the ride, nope. Hulk could go in the restaurant and get all his food paid for, but the other guys that tagged along, they had to lay out their American Express. So that's why I never did that. But back to my story. Yes, my cousin is Jerry the King Lawler. Our mothers were sisters. They both passed away. They were sisters, and I had another cousin that was in the wrestling business. His father was the brother to Jerry's mother and my mother. And Carl did okay. He never pursued being, a big star or anything like that. And he's doing quite well for himself. He finished up with the Bill Watts territory when Bill Watts down in Louisiana eventually closed his territory after Ted DiBiase and Jake and Junkyard Dog and everyone left and went to WWE. But because of what Jerry was doing didn't influence me to get into the wrestling business. I never wanted to really do that. Now, I did want to be in the entertainment business since I was a kid. I didn't really care about being in movies or things of that nature. I wanted to sing, and I wanted to perform, and I wanted to be in radio. Eventually, I did sing on a song that's been, my mainstay in wrestling for a long time now, and be part of music videos and different things that I've done, projects that way, with bands and with other musicians and things. I'm not a musician by any means. No, I cannot play the guitar. I knew you guys were going to ask. I don't know anything about it. I guess I was so bad at it that people really thought I could play it because they couldn't believe a person could fake something that bad. But I did it. I fooled you all then. I told you if there should have been an Academy Award for me faking people off that I could play a guitar. I would have an Academy Award for that. But back to that part of it, Jerry didn't really influence me that much, and Jerry was the kind of guy that he never wanted any of us in the family to be bigger than him. He was the king, and that at the family reunions and stuff like that. And then when I broke into the wrestling business, Jerry Jarrett actually promoted me against Jerry Lawler and us as cousins, and we talked about it on television and talked about his mother's fried chicken at the family reunion, and they'd all go, oh, it's Jerry's mother's chicken, and this is Wayne's mother's chicken over here, but everyone wanted hers because Jerry's the king. And we did good wrestling business with that, as us against each other. We battled each other for a lot of bloodbaths and everything in Memphis, and did very well at it. And but as time went on, I wanted to move on, and I did. So I went to multiple places. I told someone today or yesterday, I lived 9 months in Puerto Rico, and they said, gosh, how in the world did you stay down there in Puerto Rico? I said it was difficult because it's a constant 85, 88, 90 degrees every day, every night. When it rains, it pours, and the music is loud, and the people are blowing horns, and they're driving fast, and there's 3 million people on an island that's 100 miles long and 20 miles wide. It's like, man. But I spent 9 months down there, but to telling the story about Puerto Rico, I moved to Calgary, Canada later on, and I spent 5 years off and on up there. I left the beach in Pensacola. I had cowboy boots, blue jeans, a sweatshirt like I have on now, and my college letter jacket. 3 days later, with everything I owned in the trunk of my car, I crossed the border into Canada, going into Alberta. It was minus 35 degrees. Yes. And I went to Stu Hart's house, and he didn't bring me in the house. We stood on his back porch, and he talked to me until my teeth were... And he was like punishing me, I guess. He never said, come on in, it looks like you're cold. He was all bundled up in winter clothes. I didn't know why someone would have an extension cord running out of the hood of their car and plugged up to an electrical outlet. I wrestled under a mask. I wrestled as a punk rock. I wrestled as the blonde bomber with the long blonde hair, and I just felt like I was not going anywhere, so I developed another character. And I wanted it to be, and someone had buzzed the show one day at a time, and the character was off this maintenance man of this TV show. His name was Snyder, greasy, slick back hair, little pencil thin, cheesy mustache, little bony arms, white t-shirt, cigarettes rolled under the sleeve, real cheesy, like, nothing against the maintenance man in the apartment, but they had him a cheesy character. And so I adopted that kind of a look, and I did a match with this fellow down in Pensacola. Not hair versus hair, where someone loses their hair, but and he was a blonde. There wasn't enough room for two people with blonde hair. We're going to have a hair dye match. The loser of the match dyes his hair. So we did that. I lose. I come back with black hair. I cut the long hair off. It was long like the young ladies back there, the blonde. Yes, thanks for being my model. And I came back, I had the haircut, had it done in the Elvis style. I had the sideburns anyway. And some wrestling fans in Birmingham, Alabama saw me on TV with that and asked me would I ever consider doing that Elvis thing. And I said no, because I was never an Elvis fan. Growing up in Memphis, we were fed Elvis Presley music on the radio, cheesy movies that he did all the time. Every theater had Elvis everywhere. And I was a Beatles and Rolling Stone fan. I wasn't into that rock and roll stuff. I was into, I want to hold your hand. I was into the Beatles and the Stones. Start me up. So I said, no, I never considered. He said, we're going to measure you and bring you something. So he took measurements. The next week they showed up with this gold lame full-body jumpsuit. And that's how the jumpsuit started. And the promoter there was Robert Fuller. Some of you guys might remember him as Colonel Robert Parker in WCW. With him and Sherry Martel, and he was dressed like a colonel. And anyway, that was their promotion, him and his brother Ron. Robert said, "Dadgummit, man, you got that jumpsuit and everything and them sideburns and that hair like Elvis, you need a guitar." I said, "I'll tell you what, I'll bring you a guitar, man." I said, "I don't know how to play guitar, Robert." He said, "That don't matter. You go out there and strum it, and we'll hit somebody over the head with that dadgum thing, and we'll be off and running." That's how it started. I had nothing to do with it. Everything he was telling me, I was like, and the girl was telling me, "Yes, we're going to make you something, and have you ever considered this?" And I was going, no. All of a sudden, bam, I hit Bob Armstrong, who's a WWE Hall of Famer. His son is a referee over there, Scotty Armstrong. I go out and work a match with Bob, and somehow or another something happens. I grab that guitar and whack Bob across the back. Down he goes, and the referee didn't see it. 1, 2, 3. Started a riot in the building in Mobile, and that's how it all started. And then I'd go out and strum that guitar and do that stuff. And I was doing that Honky Tonk Man thing for about 5 years before any of you people ever saw it on television. Yes, it's such a unique thing the way it all transpired. So I get up, I get ready to go to Calgary, and Stu asked me on the phone and everything, and he had seen and heard about what I was doing anyway, because all the promoters, our business was always this. If you want something said rapidly, telephone, telegraph, or tell a wrestler. We're like old women at a knitting something. I mean, we just talk all the time. We're the worst gossipers in the world. So, but every other promoter knows what every other promotion's doing. And so I told Stu, I'd like to come up. I'll be on, do the same thing, Honky Tonk Man.
Yes, I kind of liked it, everything, and I hear it's doing pretty good down there with the fillers. I think we could do some business here.
That's pretty good Stu Hart, isn't it? Sure. Sounds like Brett.
John Michaels disrespected me.
You guys are laughing, but every one of the Harts sound the same. Everyone, even the girls. Even the girls. One of the girls, Diana Hart, the youngest, she was gorgeous. I mean, just a pretty thing. And hi, I'm Honky Tonk Man.
Yes, I've heard a lot about you. My father really likes you.
Oh gosh. He's a girl that talks like Stu. Yeah, so anyway, I go there, and Bruce Hart, who is like the one in the family that he was like, his dad called him
Roman Polanski. He wants to be a director and a movie star. He dates all these young girls, and
Roman Polanski. He's trying to get back to the States without going to prison, but he's a movie director, Roman Polanski. So I get there and I see the program. Bruce Hart was in charge of the program, so he booked me as Honky Tonk Wayne. And I said, this is not what I want to be. And then he had already written all this stuff in the program. It was like, this is not even about me or my character. But the fans there, the Canadian fans are much more wrestling fans, I think, than we are in America. They're not as critical of our product and of our work. They're real fans. I mean, they love the wrestlers and they love wrestling. It's a big deal up there in that country. So anyway, I was locked into that, but every interview I would go on, I'd say Honky Tonk Man, and the TV announcer, and yes, right now we have Honky Tonk Wayne of Memphis, Tennessee coming over here, and we'll get an interview. I said, don't call me that, I'm the Honky Tonk Man, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, I got over really strong in Calgary, in Canada, in Stu's territory. When I say get over, that means I was selling tickets again like in Pensacola with the guitar and the jumpsuit, the black hair, the whole works. It did very well. It did very well up there. And Stu and I had a disagreement over money, and I will never forget this. One night he was standing in Edmonton at the Coliseum, and I walked up behind him. And I knew that he would go to the Safeway supermarket on every Tuesday and get reduced steaks and meat. I do it myself now because that's on Tuesdays, that's when they do it, because the sale starts on Wednesday. So you go on Tuesday, everything's marked down. And I leaned up to him in the back of his ear and I went, I'd like to have a steak every now and again myself. And he turned around right away without missing a beat.
And he went, if you think the grass is greener, you can always graze in another pasture.
Now, what was he telling me? Anybody know? When I mentioned I wanted a steak every now and then, means I want a little bit more money. I want to eat steak. I'm tired of eating bologna and cheese, junk cold cuts. I want a steak. And he knew what I meant. And he told me right away, if I thought the grass was greener, go graze in another pasture. What was he telling me? If you don't like it, pack your bag and move down the road. So I thought maybe I'd stick around, and I heard the guy in Vancouver was paying more money. So I went over to Vancouver and left Stu. And I got on Vancouver television. Now you guys remember WTBS in Atlanta? The superstation, they still had it. TBS in Atlanta, it's CNN now, or what is it called now? Is it still called TBS? Mm-hmm. Okay. They were the satellite company, and they were sending wrestling up on the satellite for pay. You had to buy it back then. It was pay TV. They had the same thing in Canada, and it was run out of British Columbia, out of BC television, called BC TV, British Columbia TV, and it went all across the country. And it went live every Saturday at 5 o'clock. It was live across Canada. Same as like in Atlanta. So this is I'm going to bring you all guys back into the WWE thing now. By being on that television in Canada that went nationwide with the Honky Tonk Man and the jumpsuit and the guitar, now all the Canadians had seen it. They had seen it for about a year. And I was a dastardly bad guy. Yes. So I go over and I get the interview I went back for Stu. Stu and I mended our ways, and I went back, got a little bit more money. Not much. It was a little bit of a steak once a month, not much. So I went for WWE, and Vince says, I want to bring you in as a good guy. I can see little kids in jumpsuits. I can see throwing, and he even had me do this, scarves, and throwing the little scarves out to the fans, and all these things. I can get wigs made like the Elvis thing. And Vince was thinking about merchandise. I had created a character that was a notoriously bad guy. Everybody hated this slick back greaseball that tried to be an Elvis. And I said, I don't think it'll work. No, it will. It'll be fabulous. What I'll do is we'll do some interviews. You come in, and I'll have Hogan do a couple of interviews, and you get a rub off of him. And I did that. Our first TV tapings then, where I actually went out in front of the public. Now I had done all these backstage stuff where they hadn't seen me go out. Our first TV tapings were done in just outside of Toronto. And I go out as a good guy, and people booed the heck out of me. I mean, they were throwing stuff, and the Canadians knew me. They hated me. That went on for about 3 weeks. Finally, the bad guys, Don Morocco and some of those guys, I'd go out and wrestle them, they started me in Toronto, in Kitchener, Ontario, in Brantford, in Mississauga, and that's where I started, because they'd fly me in from Calgary, and that was my first towns on the booking sheet. And I'd go wrestle these guys, and Morocco was a bad guy, and Mike Sharp was a bad guy. I mean, and the people, they would hit me, and the people would cheer, kill that Elvis, kill that Honky Tonk Man. And they went back and they said, this guy, we can't work with him. It's destroying us. The people are cheering for us. Thank God for Jesse Ventura. I don't talk to him, but he was the one who said, man, we ought to do this thing then and have a call-in number and do a vote of confidence and see if the people like you. And Vince says, I like it, let's do it. So for about 2 weeks, do any of you guys ever remember this? So for about 2 weeks, Jesse went out and we did on TV. We got a 1-800 blah, 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 call in and make the vote of confidence for the Honky Tonk Man. Press 1, you like him. Press 2, you don't like him. It was no such number, it was all nonsense. So after about 2 weeks, I go out there and they said, Yes, and you guys, if you ever look at it on YouTube, it's funny. Jesse was doing the interview. We have the results now, Honky Tonk Man. I'm going, yes, I knew it. He said, the votes are in. It's like 500,000 votes. Yeah, I knew it. The people love me. I know they love me. They know I'm the greatest. And he said, no, Greaseball, they hate you. And right there, automatically, I was now the bad guy, Honky Tonk Man. And from there, I knew how to make it work. I could not make this thing work as a good guy. I just could not make it work. I can now. I've been doing it as a good guy for over 20 years. If you look at the stuff when I went back with Kane and he hits me over the head, people cheered for me. They cheered more when Kane hit me, but they cheered when I came out. When I went back to the Santino Morello thing, the fans, the place exploded. They cheered for me. And I go out every time I do an independent show, the people cheer for me now. I can make it work now, but back then, I did not know how to make it work because I had never been a good guy in like the 12 years of my career starting. It was all new territory to be nice and not pull hair and not gouge eyes and not hit the guy behind the referee's back. I mean, that's how I learned how to do it. I learned how to be a good bad guy. And I was not a good guy. Now I'm a great good guy. You ought to see it. It's fun. It's really good. I can do it now. So that's how that all happened. That's how it happened in the Intercontinental Championship. Steamboat wanted time off. He had worked this big match. They thought a great match with Savage. Well, it's a matter of opinion. And so he gets the belt after all that year of whatever him and Savage was doing. Vince, I need time off. You don't tell Vince McMahon you want time off. And he said, well, we can't use you. So he essentially fired him. And Butch Reed, the natural Butch Reed, they were going to put the Intercontinental belt on him. Now Butch says he didn't no-show. He did show up, but it was the next night. Butch wasn't there that night. And because Butch wasn't there that night, Hogan and Vince McMahon are talking in the hallway in Syracuse, New York. Buffalo. We're in Buffalo. The buildings look the same. War Memorial in Buffalo. They were standing in a little hallway and they were talking. I walked by. Because if Vince is talking to somebody, you don't butt in, or if two guys are talking, it's business, you don't interrupt. I just kept walking. I walked by and Hogan said, what about this guy? Vince looks and says, maybe so. He said, I'll let you guys talk, and Hogan walked away. And that's how it happened. And Vince told me the story about Steamboat. He said, I said, if you give me a chance, I don't want a day off. If you give me a chance, and if I do good and I sell tickets for you, all I ask is you to pay me fairly and treat me right on television, which means treat you right on television means you go out and you look good on TV and you don't get killed by some guy. He don't squash you. If there's going to be any squashing, let me be the squash. Let me squash them. And he said, fine, good enough. And that was it. I go out and I win a belt from Steamboat. And if you guys watch it back, I gave Steamboat 99% of that match, which means I let him do everything to me he could do. I knew I was going to win. But at the end, when he gives me the drop kick and I hit Jimmy Hart takes a bump back and he goes to roll me up. He actually tried to pull me away from the rope, and if you watch it really close, I was supposed to grab the second rope, and he was pulling me terrible because everyone in the building and the TV crowd would have seen that I missed the rope, and the referee would have seen it, and the referee would have counted me out and gave it to Steamboat. I lost a lot of respect for Steamboat over that. Just over that. And then he didn't say anything about it for years and years. And not so long ago, he did an interview, and he said the one guy, the worst match I ever had, the match, the one I hated to lose, was to lose to an Elvis impersonator. You didn't lose to an Elvis impersonator. You lost to another wrestler. Hey, I didn't want to lose to an Ultimate Warrior cartoon character. But it's business. Well, okay, then you could lose to Roddy Piper. He blows bagpipes and got a skirt on. Or you could lose to the Snake Man, who walks around with a snake in a bag. I mean, what do you do there? So there was a little bit of respect lost there, and him and I still don't really have any communication. I've only seen him once or twice in 15, 20 years. And he got a job working back for WWE. He's still working there. And it's like, get over it, man. Who would you rather? I just hated losing to an Elvis impersonator. First of all, you idiot, I'm not an Elvis impersonator. I'm just dressed that way. So, but anyway, that's the story of all that, and that's what happened. And for the last 20 years, I've kind of been doing independent wrestling, that's a chore in itself. I mean, you don't have the best facilities, you don't have the best of everything, you don't wrestle the best of the best. The thing about our group of guys, we had about 40 guys in our locker room back then that were all seasoned pros. Everyone had been around for 12, 15, 20 years. Even the lowest guy on the totem pole had been around 5 or 6 years. Just new guys coming in. One Man Gang had been around 10 years. Jake had been around 15 years. Junkyard Dog, 15 years. DiBiase, 15 years. Piper, 20 years. Hogan, I mean, everyone was a veteran. And when you got a veteran crew like that, you're going to win the Super Bowl. You're going to win it. And that's why the wrestling took off the way it did. And we never thought it would be that big. No one. Hogan, Andre, no one thought we would do that many people at a WrestleMania. No one thought WrestleMania would go past WrestleMania 1, not even Vince. His story is, and he's told it in his documentaries, he mortgaged everything for that one WrestleMania. It's just make it or break it. It came out to be okay, and he had another one. And then the third one it popped. And no one looked back. It's been great. I wouldn't trade the wrestling business for anything. It's very difficult, it's tough, it's hard. My children are not involved in it. My son's not involved in the wrestling business. He watched it, he still watches some of it, keeps up with it. He was never into contact sports, and I can tell you this, if any of you have ever played sports, or even at Christmas and you get a gym membership and you haven't worked out in 5 years or 2 years, and all of a sudden you're going to go to the gym and work out, you feel pretty bad the next day when you wake up, don't you? You're sore, you're hurting. And I went to a chiropractor once and I was really hurting, and I said, I'm in terrible pain. He said, well, that's your job. Your job is pain. And every time I make a bad booking or I come home limping and some kid kicks me in the ribs or kicks me in the elbow the wrong way, because he got excited, he said. I said, there's 30 people out there. There's nothing to be excited about. You just broke my arm. It could have been my teeth. But she says, you booked it. Yep. Because I do my own bookings. She said, that's the life you chose. If you don't want to take the booking, don't book it. Stay home. But if you do, I'm leaving you. I'm 63 years old, I still go out here and get kicked in the head by these young guys. Anybody got a question? Real quick. Yes, sir.
Going back to the Ultimate Warrior, and there's a reason why I'm asking this. The fact that you developed such an awesome persona as just this evil guy who cheated and everything like that, do you think that helped when he was able to come in and win, that helped boost his character then tremendously, because he defeated a guy who hadn't been defeated in 64 weeks, right?
Of course. Thank you very much. Of course, here's the thing about that. I was given complete creative control first time in my career, other than now on the independence, I do what I want to do. That Vince said, you do it the way you want. He said, I got to get this guy over. Which meant he needed someone to fill Hogan's. Hogan was leaving, going to Hollywood in about 6 or 8 months. Hogan had told him, 6 months from now, 8 months from now, I'm leaving. I got a movie deal, blah, blah, blah. And, I mean, Hogan was the golden goose. He laid the egg. All the eggs was in Hogan's basket. and he gets ready to leave. Now, we had a lot of good guys on the card, don't get me wrong, but none of us were Hulk Hogan. I mean, I don't care what anybody says. Some guy said, well, I should have been a world's champion. Tito thought he was bigger and better than Hulk. Come on, knock it off. Grab a burrito and get out of here. So, but it's, the way I set that match up was, I remember again, Jesse mentioned to me, as my career was going along, he said, you know, the secret is to not stay here too long. He said, get out, drop out of sight for a year, 2 years, and come back. Well, that's what we used to do in the old territories. You would leave after a year. You would go somewhere else for 2 years, and then you would come back, bigger and better than ever. But the way the WWF was run, if you left, you might never get back. And the money was so good, you don't want to leave it. But I remembered him saying, and if you ever do lose, make it quick. Make it quick. And I kept that in my mind the whole time. And the thing with the Warrior was he was not that good. Everyone knows that. He was not that good in the ring. He did listen to me. He was very polite and cordial to me, and he wanted my help, and I gave him a lot of help. And I knew that because I had refused to lose the belt, not to Randy Savage because it was Randy personally, but just the timing of it was not right for me, for what Vince and I had an agreement on. Treat me right on television. Remember that I said earlier? And now he wants Savage to squash me. And I'm the Intercontinental Champion, not that I had anything to do with it, but we were selling out every building every night. Hogan was selling out every building every night, and so was Honky Tonk Man and Macho Man. Every night we went somewhere. We were never on the card with Hogan. Hogan would be in Miami, sold out. We'd be in LA, sold out. Hogan would go to Seattle, sold out. We would go to Montreal, sold out. The timing just wasn't right, and I had just had a house built. And it was like, okay, he built a house, let's really get him. They're vicious there. You can't tell them anything about your finances. They have moles that come around and ride with you and find out what you're doing and everything. You know, what kind of hotel are you staying in? If you've moved up from a Motel 6 to a Quality Inn, and from a Quality Inn you're staying at a Marriott, oh, they're out to get you now. So, but back to the Warrior. They gave me control over it, and I said, sure, Vince, I got no problem. As fast as we can do it, I think it'll be better. He said, do it however you want. Just, I want him over. And what you just said, as powerful as my character was, and so strong as everyone out there wanted me dead. They wanted me beat. I don't care who beat me. They didn't care if it was the janitor that ran in and covered me 1, 2, 3. They would have loved that. It made the Warrior a superhero right away. He was made. It was good for the company. 20 seconds or 13 seconds the actual match was, it went so fast, so quick, it didn't really hurt me. People hated me more now that I had lost. So that was how it worked, and I didn't have any regrets over that at all, none whatsoever. And I thought it was good. It was good for the Warrior. He never, before he passed away, really gave me a lot of credit for what I did for him, but he didn't do that for anybody anyway. So I take that with a grain of salt. But it is what it is, you know. Hogan never tells anybody I gave him the keys to my car so he could have a place to go, and he didn't say that I threw my mattress on the floor so he had a place to sleep, and Beefcake doesn't say I gave him my boots to wear because he didn't have boots. I mean, these are things that, you know, you don't like to go back and say, you know, the guy really helped me. They always say how somebody hurt them. I never liked that guy. I never knew why Roddy Piper didn't like me. We were going into Sacramento last year for the Stockton Comic Con, and I was going to see Roddy that weekend, and I was actually scheduled. I was going to go on his radio and his podcast, and I was just going to find out what was going on with Roddy, why he hated me. He said if there's one wrestler he wanted to beat up, it was Honky Tonk Man. I don't think he even knew my real name, but he just hated me, and I wanted to find out why, and I never got the chance to find out.
Long side burns and my hair slicked back. I'm coming to your town in my pink Cadillac. I'm just a honky tonk man.